Yes, guys, I am back from vacation. We took a little week off here. We missed fantasy football week 3. My apologies. I am back, and my goodness, do we have a lot to discuss. Week 3 takeaways, fantasy football landscape thoughts, waiver targets, stashes, all that good stuff. So let's just hop right into it with my thoughts on the fantasy football landscape, what happened in week 3, how we should be managing our teams. And this will be rapid fire, kind of position by position. We'll then get into the waiver players. Okay, so first of all, Jonathan Taylor making his case for RB1 overall. 32.8 fantasy points here in week 3, 3 touchdowns today. If you have the guy, congratulations. Best running back in fantasy at the moment. Not much to say there, more of just an update. Quinshon Judkins, this is a big one here. He has officially broken out. 20 opportunities, 5.2 yards per carry. Top 12 running back in his first start. We look at his stats over here, guys. Okay, in his first game, really as a starter, 55% of snaps. Now, that is going to rise. That should be around 70%, pushing 70%. And we saw 20 opportunities, 16.5 fantasy points against the Green Bay Packers defense. It's a lot to be excited about. Detroit, Minnesota coming up. 2 tougher matchups, if you will, but then Pittsburgh, Miami, New England, then the bye. He gets the rookie bye week bump there. Jets, Baltimore, Vegas. I mean, there really isn't a lot to be super scared of on the schedule. And you got to remember, coming into draft season, coming into the start of the season, Judkins was a 5th rounder, 6th rounder, 7th rounder. So there's a lot to be excited about if you have Judkins. I do have him, and I will have him as a top 12 running back in week 4, and definitely pushing for that spot rest of season. I am very, very in on Judkins. So if you have him, if you stashed him, it is working out very well. A little bit different here for Trevion Henderson. His time is coming, okay? Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson combined for 3 fumbles last week in week 3. Henderson has literally not fumbled on his last 690 plus touches. You cannot find me a video of him fumbling and losing the football in college, a little before that. Okay, you can't do it. So his time is coming. Stevenson and Gibson are not getting it done. The Patriots lost. We need to get Henderson the ball. I do believe the coaching staff will recognize that. I do believe they will get him the rock more. And once those opportunities come, he's going to do a lot with that, okay? So he's a good trade target at the moment. Kyren Williams, there's a lot of talk about Blake Corum, his impact on the offense, the split between Kyren and Blake. Now, 2 things can be true at once. Blake Corum is a good stash and a good pickup. 8 touches here. We look at his game log here. 8 touches in week 3. And let's see how that's changed week to week. Yeah, his rushing attempts have simply risen every single week. We have 2 total opportunities in week 1, then 5, then 8. As far as the snaps go, just looking, he's floating around that 25%, 30% of snaps. Handcuff, not standalone value yet. And with Kyren, just keep starting Kyren. Okay, just keep starting Kyren. 23 opportunities, 19.2 fantasy points. He's just a guy who, it's going to be this conversation all year of, can we do Kyren again? Is he going to get overtaken? Probably not. 2 things can be true at once. We also like Blake Corum as a stash, okay? Ashton Genty, guys, 17 carries, only 6.3 fantasy points, though. I do think he's a very good trade target. Ashton Genty is. Here's the thing. Rookie running backs, they break out down the stretch. He's getting the carries. The fantasy points are not there yet. I do have him as an RB1 rest of season. Trey Tucker, 3 long touchdowns. I think that's a fool's gold pickup there with Bowers not doing the most and Genty, again, not doing the most. I'd be trading for Genty. Jordan Mason is capitalizing, guys, with Aaron Jones out. 23.6 fantasy points. Do have him as a top 12 running back until he returns. I don't think he had a target, Jordan Mason. We can take a look real quick. I don't think he did. Hold on. Yeah, he did not have a target, but I wouldn't be too worried about it. It was really just a complete rout of the Bengals. They do play Pittsburgh in week 4 at Pittsburgh. Could be a little more difficult, but again, I'm not worried. RB1, if you have Mason, most likely for the next 3 weeks. All right, Chase Brown. We have 6 fantasy points here for Chase Brown in week 3. T. Higgins, Chase Brown are extremely affected by the Joe Burrow injury. If you remember correctly, Chase Brown was, I'm just going to pause this video, it's really distracting, was my guy at the running back position this year. And of course, this was assuming Joe Burrow was playing football. And he right now is not. The snap percentage dropped to 55%. I do think Chase Brown is a nice trade target if you, how do I put this? He is no longer an RB1, okay? He is just an RB2. The schedule is not amazing. Denver, Detroit, Green Bay, not very good. But if you can get Chase Brown, right, as like your flex, especially in a PPR league, he's going to keep seeing these targets. He actually had his most targets in week 3. I do like that. You can trade an RB2 and kind of get him as a flex. I'm fine with that because once bye weeks start hitting, there's going to be a lot worse options than Chase Brown getting 15 opportunities. And by the way, Jake Browning is capable. He did not look capable against Minnesota. He might not look capable next week at Denver, but he is. We've seen him be pretty good. So Chase Brown, there will be way worse options at running back. Again, not an RB1. Unfortunately, the Joe Burrow injury has just completely tanked all the stock we had in Chase Brown. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. Okay, Travis Etienne sticking at the running back position. This is going to be the running back portion of the show here. 17 opportunities in all 3 games so far. We have Bashal Tutin emerging, touchdown in 2 straight games. But here's the thing. Travis Etienne is the lead running back. He is the lead running back for the Jaguars. I'm not worried about this 54% of snaps. I mean, there is no difference in my mind between 54, 66, and 61. In my mind, this is the exact same role. He's had 18 opportunities this week on less snaps, 17 last week. They did let him score the touchdown, but I mean, he's getting the carries inside the 10-yard line like he was probably going to score. I'm not too worried about it, okay? Etienne actually took them down to the goal line on Tutin's touchdown. Tutin ran it in. Listen, clear RB2 for fantasy. RB1 upside every single week. Very strong RB2. That's how it is. With that being said, Tutin as well is standalone value, one of the best handcuffs in fantasy. Tutin snaps actually went down. LaQuint Allen was involved. Okay, we really like Tutin though. He just is moving at a different speed on the field, and we got to be in on him. So if you have Etienne, try to handcuff with Tutin. The passing offense for the Jaguars is struggling. The running backs are not. In Liam Cohen's offense last year, both Rachaad White and Bucky Irving were top 12 at the position in fantasy points per touch. Tutin and Etienne could definitely do that, could definitely both finish top 20, with one of them top 10, kind of like how Bucky Irving did. I do think it will be Etienne. Okay, moving along. Now into the wide receivers. Garrett Wilson, season high, 13 targets, 24.4 fantasy points. I do have Wilson as a bit of a sell high because this is a big difference. What we've seen this week, right? With, again, 100% of snaps, 13 targets, 84 yards, touchdown, 24.4 fantasy points, season high. Tyrod Taylor is not his quarterback. Justin Fields is his quarterback. So he had a great week this week against the bad Tampa Bay pass defense. He might have another great week against Miami, maybe another one against Dallas, okay? But when Justin Fields returns, this is going to be a lot more inconsistent in my opinion. The targets are there, right? 9 targets, 8 targets, 13 targets. But if you can move Wilson somehow for like a truly elite wide receiver 1, like an Amon-Ra St. Brown, a Puka Nacua. I mean, maybe even a Jamar Chase. I would take Jamar. Justin Jefferson. These players, Garrett Wilson and someone off the bench for one of those. And then you have your wide receiver 1, I would absolutely do that. But with that being said, he kind of reminds me of the wide receiver version of Travis Etienne here. Garrett Wilson, he might be a little inconsistent, but he will produce for you. So if he's your wide receiver 2, I very much enjoy that. We'll move on to A.J. Brown, 10 targets. Obviously, that was a season high after doing absolutely nothing weeks 1 and 2. We saw this coming. We saw the force feed of targets coming. 22.9 fantasy points. Again, no question, he's still very good at football, can still get it done, but this is not going to be the offense every single week. So we're looking to sell A.J. Brown high, in my opinion. Okay, speaking of Puka Nacua, 22.8 fantasy points in every game this year, over 11 targets per game, 15 targets, okay, in week 3. So with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson kind of in these murky waters with their QB situation, we have to discuss who is the best wide receiver in fantasy, and CeeDee Lamb as well, injured, going to be out about 3-4 weeks, whatever it is. We need to discuss who the best wide receiver in fantasy is. Puka Nacua and Amon-Ra St. Brown, that wide receiver 1 title, is going to go to one of them. I actually do lean Amon-Ra St. Brown. I actually do. Okay, I think there's a little bit for rest of season. Next week, week 4, sure, Puka's probably my wide receiver 1, but for rest of season, I think there's less risk with Amon-Ra. He has a bit of a higher ceiling, honestly. I don't know if Puka's going and dropping 40 points like Amon-Ra did last week. Again, we're splitting hairs, but they are 1 and 2 for me, rest of season. Nico Collins has increased both targets and fantasy points every week. We'll move on to the Texans here. 22.4 points on 11 targets in week 3, so he is trending upwards. All right, Mike Evans, trending downwards. We have Mike Evans leaving the game with a hamstring injury. So Emeka Egbuka is projecting as a top 12 wide receiver if/when Evans misses time. Spoiler alert, he's going to miss time. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a medical degree. He's going to miss time. He always misses time with his hamstring injuries. So, Egbuka, yeah, I do have him in the top 12 this week and weeks to come. Just absolutely dominating, doing things on the field that veteran wide receivers do. And he is not a veteran wide receiver. Alec Ayomanor for the Titans. Again, one day I will say his name right, but for now it will be Alec Ayomanor, okay? Ayomanor. Maybe it's Ayomanor. Scored again here for the Titans. And we need to start having the conversation that Calvin Ridley is actually the wide receiver 2 on this team. Ayomanor has outscored Ridley in 2 of 3 weeks. Rare bright spot for this team. What we see with rookie QBs is a pretty slow start. Cam Ward's probably going through that right now, but we have seen flashes from Cam Ward of very good stuff. Okay, they played the tough Colts defense. Ward and Alec managed to connect again, second straight week with a touchdown. So Alec is approaching, we're just going to call him Alec, is approaching flex start territory, okay? We will go to Carolina here, okay? Tedero and McMillan. 9 targets per game, okay? But just 7.8 fantasy points in week 3. Carolina controlled early. They were up like 30 points, and they kind of just ran the clock out. So he is, again, a very strong buy low. I think a boom week is coming. I'm not sure if it's against Christian Gonzalez and the Patriots in week 4, but it is coming. If you can get McMillan as your wide receiver 2, I think you will have a wide receiver 1 in your wide receiver 2 spot to close the season. Brian Thomas Jr., move on, actually had a touchdown, but then called back. He keeps seeing 8+ targets per game. I would keep trading for him. Similarly, put him in your wide receiver 2 spot. You'll probably have a wide receiver 1 there at some point this season. I wouldn't panic there. All right. Hunter Henry, moving to the tight ends, 2 touchdowns on 11 targets. He is, definitely startable week to week. You're going to need to see it a couple weeks in a row, honestly, but he is clearly a big target for me, a priority in the offense. Hawkinson as well found the offense, found life with Carson Wentz. He caught his first touchdown of the season, 6 targets for 15.9 fantasy points. I'd look to sell high on him. You can get a guy like Henry back and then some. I'd like to do that. I mean, his touchdown, if we just look at this video, 41-3 was the score when he scored his touchdown. So I'm not sure who was really playing a lot of defense. For the QBs, Jalen Hurts, season high, 226 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Yes, they can still pass. 29 fantasy points. It just proves that Hurts is a top 5 quarterback every single week. Okay. Drake May, 230 passing yards, 3rd straight game doing that. 7+ rushes, 19.2 fantasy points. He's looking like the real deal and delivering. If we move on, just real quick to Thursday night, guys, some thoughts here. Devon Etienne, he is still a PPR top 12, top 10, top 8 guy, 7+ targets per game. That's probably more than a lot of your favorite wide receivers. Through Ollie Gordon vultured a touchdown, and he's expanding his role. We're going to talk a little bit about him later in the video. James Cook now has 20 touchdowns in his last 19 games on the other side of the ball, so he is a top 6 running back rest of season till we see some things start to change. Doesn't play like 100% of snaps, but literally gets every good running back opportunity. All right. Moving ahead to like kind of the later games, James Conner. It appears he's lost for the season, and it is confirmed he is. So Trey Benson is going to be a priority waiver ad. We're going to talk a little bit about him in a moment here. Marion Hampton, top 3 running back in week 3, 20+ opportunities after Najee Harris' Achilles injury. And I meant to say top 3 running back. I think I said that. But yeah, he finished, top 3, top 5 at the position. I think actually he was pushed to top 5 because Monty and Gibbs went crazy on Monday. We'll talk about them in a second. But yeah, with Najee Harris out, guys, we're going to see Hampton just be a weekly RB1 and a monster. With rookies, the more opportunities you give them, the better they play. So this is another reason just to keep buying Ashton Genty. But Hampton is looking like an RB1 if you have him. I mentioned CeeDee Lamb left with an injury. He's going to miss about 3 weeks. Pickens is going to see a major upgrade. He's going to be pushing for top 15, top 12 at the position. Trey McBride actually scored a touchdown. That's actually 3 touchdowns in his last 5 games. So the mainstream media does not want you to know that Trey McBride has 3 touchdowns in his last 5 games. Interesting, right? There's something they don't tell you, that he actually does score touchdowns, and he can. Cortland Sutton, 100 yards, 20 fantasy points, 2 touchdowns in 3 games this year. It's going to be a bumpy ride for him, potentially, but again, that's my guy at the wide receiver position. He is the wide receiver 1 there. Troy Franklin is the wide receiver 2. We prefer Cortland, obviously. Top 20 guy rest of season is Sutton. And then there's my guy, man. And then there's my guy, Caleb Williams. Oh, the best quarterback pre-Monday Night Football. I don't know if Lamar took over, but yes, the QB1 here in week 3 or top 3, whatever it is. And now we have him, guys, as a season-long top 8 option. This is my guy at the QB position. I don't want to hear the Dallas talks. Oh, he played Dallas. No, top 10 QB in week 1 versus the Vikings, who had 5 turnovers this week. So I don't want to hear that, okay? Then he went to Detroit. They were down like 20 points. Aiden Hutchinson was in his face the whole game. I don't know what you want him to do. But right now, only two QBs are better than Caleb Williams on the course of the season. They are Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So if you drafted Caleb Williams, you listened. You are enjoying Caleb Williams, so congratulations. I do want to move on to some other games we talked about, or we missed talking about. Chiefs-Giants here, just an absolute box score hunt here, but I do have some thoughts. The rushing attack for the Chiefs, Pacheco, Hunt, Brashard Smith, stuff like that, I'm out. I'm out on Pacheco and Hunt. I don't want them on my team. I don't care that Hunt scored. If you can send any of those guys, I would do it. If you're in a deep league, I would stash Brashard Smith, only 2 carries, but 13 yards, so that's pretty good. And Pacheco and Hunt are just not doing it. So I'm not starting the latter 2 guys. I'm stashing Smith. As far as receiving goes for the Chiefs, it's kind of similar. I'm out on this nonsense until we get Rashee Rice back, Xavier Worthy. Those guys will produce, but I'm out on this Tyquan Thornton, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown nonsense. Travis Kelce, he's approaching sit territory, but he's not there yet. Let's talk about the Giants because we do have news there with Tyrone Tracy's going to miss a couple weeks and Cam Scatterbo. I mean, 6 yards a carry on 10 carries, got in the end zone, but then 6 catches, guys. The fact he can do both, man, he's going to be pushing for top 12 at the position. I know I've been saying that a lot this episode, but there are major switches in the landscape. As far as receiving goes, I'm not that upset about Malik Neighbors, but again, that's why, like with Jamar, Justin Jefferson, those guys, CeeDee Lamb, kind of shaking up who's the best wide receiver in fantasy. It's not Malik Neighbors for this reason, because 2 catches for 13 yards, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown and Puka Nacua are never posting that stat line. Those 2 are the top 2 receivers moving forward. Wan'Dale Robinson, 1 catch for 26 yards. Now, that's a crappy stat line. Nobody was starting him. If you picked him up on waivers, I'm actually not worried. Do not drop Wan'Dale, because Jackson Dart is most likely going to be starting. And a 26-yard catch for Wan'Dale is something you don't see very often, so I really do like that, actually, oddly. That's 3.6 fantasy points in PPR. It's not good. I'm not saying it's good, but it's interesting to me, and he is the clear wide receiver 2 on this team, so definitely keep him. Now, as far as Lions-Ravens go, I actually just want to start on the Ravens side of the ball. So this is the reason, okay? I'm going to pull up the game log for Derrick Henry, but this is the reason that Derrick Henry was not a top 10 running back for me in draft season. Maybe he was 9, 10, but he was not a top 5, top 6, top whatever guy. Because here's the thing with Derrick Henry. I'm not even going to mention the fumbles. Doesn't matter. Not going to be an issue. But his monster game where he had 169 rush yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 catch for 13 yards, 29 fantasy points. 29 fantasy points. Okay? So let's take a look at what David Montgomery did last night. 29 fantasy points on only 12 carries against Baltimore. So that's a great game for Henry. Don't get me wrong. It's an awesome game. But when we're pushing for 200 rush yards on the ground and 2 tutties, we want to be over 30 fantasy points, 35. We want to be pushing 40 fantasy points. He does not have that ceiling. You're not getting 40 points from Henry. You're not getting a top 3 finish at the position from Henry. Top 2, RB1 overall. It's not happening this season, because then in week 2, this is the floor. 2.3 points. Christian McCaffrey, Gibbs, Bijan. These players do not have a 2.3 fantasy point floor. They do not. In Detroit, or against Detroit last night, again, got in the end zone, only 10 fantasy points with a touchdown. That is not good. And this is why. This is why. 2 targets on the year in 3 games. So I'm very much done with the Derrick Henry's the best running back in fantasy. How could you ignore him and not have him top 5? This is why. So enjoy your sick long 80-yard touchdown runs. They are awesome. I enjoy them too. But 4 catches for Jahmyr Gibbs probably gives you the same output, to be honest. Okay, the rant is over. As far as receiving, okay, we have a similar rant here for Zay Flowers. Every single year we see Zay Flowers go crazy. Oh my God, he's a wide receiver 1 for fantasy. Oh my God, look at this. And then he does this, what he did last night. Okay, 3 targets, 2 catches. You should not be interested in any receiving option on the Ravens. Mark Andrews, if he's still on your team, he had a monster night, almost 30 fantasy points. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. You don't want him on your team. Sorry. Get rid of him. Sell high. This is all Zay Flowers does, right? He does well, 28 fantasy points, 15, then 3. Literally, I will literally show you the game log last year, okay? Here we go. So PPR points, weeks 1 and 2, 11, 22, then 5, then 2. Oh my God, back up to 19, 22, then 4 points. Oh my God, 18, 29, 7. This is what it is. Last 2 weeks of the season, 5, 3. So with Zay, he is literally, he is every single year, he ascends to wide receiver 1 value, and then you send him on his way. That's what you need to be doing with Zay Flowers. On the Lions side of the ball, not much to discuss. Like we've already talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown. There is maybe one other wide receiver I want rest of season over him. Jahmyr Gibbs, what do we even want to talk about? 5 catches. Absolute monster. 2 touchdowns for both Monty and Gibbs. You can start Monty as your RB2 weekly. Lower floor than Gibbs, of course, and Gibbs, challenging for RB1 overall rest of season. If not, RB1 overall rest of season, almost 30 opportunities last night. In fact, he might have had 30. Let me just look. We're talking 30 opportunities. Yeah, he had 28. He had 28 against Baltimore. So, when we play Cleveland next week, I don't really want Monty in my lineup, but you can do it. But then you get Cincinnati, Kansas City, Tampa Bay before the bye. You got to be in on Jahmyr as potentially the RB1 overall rest of season. He is top 2 for me. All right, moving on to waivers. The first guy I want to talk about. Actually, I should say this. There are some players that should not be on waivers that are probably on waivers in your league. Kyle Monangai, Harold Fannin, Darnell Mooney, Tyjae Spears. These guys should not be on waivers. They are approaching startability, if you will. If you really had to, you could start all those guys. Obviously, Spears still on IR, but you could. The first guy I want to talk about is Woody Marks, guys. So we take a look at Woody Marks, his snaps and his opportunities. In week 1, okay, 11% of snaps, only 3 opportunities. Then in week 2, 27% of snaps, 4 opportunities. Then in week 3, 48% of snaps, 8 opportunities. So his role has grown every single game, okay? He has completely taken the RB2 role from Dare Ogunbowale, who has not scored a fantasy point in 2 weeks now. So Marks is actually looking like the RB1B to the RB1A for Nick Chubb. The snaps and opportunities, like I said, the role has risen, has grown every single week. Higher yards per carry than Chubb in last 2 games, and we need to be betting on rookie running backs down the stretch. There is absolutely no sign of Joe Mixon's return. I'm hearing out for season allegations. We shall see. We talked about Alec before. Should not be on waivers, okay? More catches, yards, touchdowns than Ridley over the past 2 games, so obviously, yes, more fantasy points. Currently scoring as in that wide receiver 30 range. He's flexible. Christian Kirk is an interesting name. So he made his season debut. I'm actually going to go full screen for this, guys. He made his season debut here in week 3. And he is the clear wide receiver 2 for the team alongside Nico Collins. 8 targets on only 2/3 of snaps, 67%. The other wide receivers, other than Collins and Kirk, are going to be a committee. So he just missed a touchdown here on an overthrow by CJ Stroud. Could have actually had 15 fantasy points on 2/3 of snaps he could possibly be playing. So very much enjoy Christian Kirk off waivers, especially in PPR. Ollie Gordon, we mentioned him before, but it's not too long ago. We had Raheem Mostert and Devon Etienne, very good for fantasy, right? Maybe 2 years ago, whatever it was. That world exists. Maybe this team turns it around. I don't think it's likely, but even if they don't, Gordon is a top 5 handcuff. If anything were to happen to Etienne, he'd be an RB1. Season high 9 carries for for Gordon. He vultured Etienne, scored the touchdown, so a lot to like there. Again, always betting on rookie running backs. Then we have Trey Benson, as I mentioned. James Conner's out for the remainder of the year. Benson, 23 years old, in his prime as an RB in terms of age. Played 61% of snaps filling in, 14 opportunities, 4.2 yards per carry. So he should see the majority of RB work in an offense that is going to utilize the position a lot. James Conner, even with Benson eating into his role to start the season, had a workhorse role. So now Benson's just going to take that over, which is great. We do have some stashes, some guys who are a little less known, okay? Luther Burden. Maybe he takes DJ Moore's role here for Chicago. That's a common theme. It's definitely something people want to see happen. I don't know if it will. But even if he takes Zacchaeus' role as that slot guy, he's going to be very valuable. We talked about Caleb before, who's just cooking right now. So you want to stash Burden. Blake Corum, we mentioned him before. Good handcuff for Kyron Williams. Jalen Coker's on IR, similar to like the Tyjae Spears at the wide receiver position. When he comes back, he should be pretty productive. We have Taj Brooks. Chase Brown's not doing much right now, but then again, Brooks hasn't gotten many looks. Just keep him on your radar. And then Torrey Horton has been very productive. I believe he has 2 touchdowns in the last 2 games. If Cooper Kupp were to miss time, JSN, hope he doesn't, but were to miss time, and I'm not saying he will, not suggesting that, but Horton is producing as the wide receiver 3 on Seattle. And then as far as defenses go, guys, you have the Chargers this week, the Patriots, the Texans, and the Jets. Those are the the defenses I would look at on the waivers outside of the obvious guys. Hope you enjoyed the video today. We are back every single week of the season. We will be here. Good luck this week. Stay tuned. A lot to talk about. Trades coming, waivers coming. I guess we talked about waivers, but trades coming, rankings coming is what I meant to say. So stay involved, guys. Follow everywhere you can. Peace.